celebrating 11 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Bob Kirk.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and these are great stories about great people who prove with their lives that anything is possible. Today, my friend Bob Kirk. And I didn't say Dr. Bob Kirk.
Thank you, sir.
You educated me on that. Though you are Dr. Bob Kirk, but it's Bob Kirk. Thank you for joining us today.
Certainly. Thank you for inviting me.
I want to start with this, and we'll work back from this. 1967, you became the first full-time black professor at the University of Tennessee. How did that happen?
Well, in April of 1967, I was attending a convention out in Las Vegas, and I made a presentation while I was out there. But at any event, and names may not be important, but a fellow by the name of Cyrus Mayshark was interested in the possibility of me considering coming to the University of Tennessee to initiate what was perceived to be a safety program. And so, make a long story short, once returning, I was down at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at that time. I received communication inviting me to visit the campus if I were interested in applying for the position. And so I showed up, and one thing led to another. And so I started officially during the fall of 1967.
Wait till they get a load of you. You step on this campus at UT, and what happened?
Nothing happened. What I'm saying, nothing different than I had previously experienced. Understand, during those days, and this was true as far as Andy Holt was concerned, I spent almost an entire day with Andy Holt. And of course, I had to be vetted,
Right.
I was vetted by Andy Holt himself. And it was a marvelous experience. I often say that people would ask me after 10 years there, if you had your wish, what would you wish would happen? I said, I would wish that Andy Holt was still here.
Wow.
Kind of thing. But it was an excellent transition. The other thing was I had varied experiences. Well, what do you mean? I had worked at 5 other universities prior to landing at the University of Tennessee.
So being the first black full-time professor at the University of Tennessee, you didn't see anything you hadn't already seen, is what you're saying.
Correct.
You had a lot of experience coming in. So you didn't have a lot of resistance, or you were already prepared for whatever you were going to run into.
Yeah, I was already prepared. I was prepared. And that's not, that's not a frivolous statement. I mean, that's a big factor. I was prepared because I had experienced practically all kinds of different administrations, worked with different kinds of faculty. Case in point, I came to the University of Tennessee from Southern University in Baton Rouge. Prior to that, I had spent time at Alabama State University in Montgomery. Prior to that, I had spent some time at Grambling State University, 3 years of experience down there in Louisiana. And then I was the first African American who was signed on by Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville in Illinois.
So you were used to being first something.
Well, I was used to it. But the most important thing about the University of Tennessee was it was a fantastic faculty of grand people. It was just like a big family from day one. So
really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I know you well enough to know that if something isn't right, If it's not that way,
You find out.
yeah, you're not you're not going along to get along.
Yeah.
So you ran into actually a wonderful experience.
Fantastic, fantastic. As a
How
matter
long
of fact,
did you stay?
oh God, 1967, and well, the last official task I had was teaching a correspondence course, so that would have been '02.
Wow.
Yeah, '02.
Why?
35 years.
Why? Why stay here that long? Because you could have gone somewhere else. What did you find here?
I didn't want to retire now. You know, I really did.
You went
not-
out kicking and screaming.
I went out not kicking and screaming as far as the administration was concerned, but my wife had been retired almost a decade before I stepped out.
You had to go home.
I had to go home, so to speak. Yeah.
What did you find here at Tennessee, though, that made you stay put here in this community rather than going somewhere else?
Prior to coming to the University of Tennessee, I had varied experiences. Case in point, I had been an athletic director of all things. I had
Really?
Oh yeah, athletic director at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. Had coached starting at Fisk and things of that sort. Professionally, I was in the field of health and safety. The position that was originally offered by the University of Tennessee was a professorship in health and safety. And I had made a decision that I was going to gravitate to a professional area and stay there. Wasn't going to do any more coaching or anything of that sort. Matter of fact, some people say, you don't even watch football games, and you've played it and coached it and was an athletic director, and now you can take it or leave it. And I can take it or leave it, so to speak. But the University of Tennessee provided what I thought of at that particular time, a launching pad for really doing what I
you
thought I
wanted to
could want to do.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
And thanks to a fantastic group of co-workers, I was given an opportunity to do that. The second year here, 1969, I became the first so-called black department head at the University of Tennessee.
You don't care about those labels, do you?
No.
Yeah. Let's take a break. When we come back, more with my guest, Bob Kirk.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up,
We lived in a house that was extremely too small, did not have electricity, did not have plumbing, things of that sort.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. My guest is Bob Kirk. I'm glad to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here.
Let's go back to your childhood. My understanding is you grew up in Nashville?
No, I was born in first decade of my life, a little more, in Hamtramck, Michigan.
Uh-oh.
The city of Hamtramck, Michigan.
That's right, you did tell me that.
Yeah.
Hamtramck, Michigan.
Hamtramck.
So let me ask you, I'm going to throw something out at you and you give me your response. What do you know about running the numbers?
Oh my gosh.
That was a double chuckle.
Yeah. So somebody would ask, what did your dad do? And I would say, my dad ran the numbers. Ran the numbers. So the numbers game, I guess historically, the numbers game has been around since the 1800s.
Right.
Believe it or not, it goes way, way back. And very simply, there are, if you will, runners or people who collect numbers.
Right.
3-digit numbers.
Right.
3-digit numbers, and then they take it to a policy depot or across, and overnight there's a drawing
Right.
of 3, and then the next day
Somebody gets paid.
If you hit it, you get, the odds are something like 6 to 1. So for $1, you may get 6 or 5 or what have you.
Did you know anybody that did that?
My dad.
Yeah, what was that like growing up around that?
Just a way of life, really. At that particular time, it was just a way of life.
Now, in our conversation prior to this interview,
And it's in existence right here in
right,
the city
it
right
happens
now.
right now.
So,
But your mother wanted to get you out of that,
absolutely.
and she wanted a better way of life for you. And so, talk about that transition.
Life in Detroit was perceived by mother to be somewhat hazardous, you know, being a runner, dad being a runner, and all those kinds of things. She was not happy with it, and so she thought it was good for us to go to her hometown to live. And so we migrated to Nashville, Tennessee.
And that's where your world changed.
It was a tremendous letdown for us as children.
Why?
We had a house. We lived in a house that was extremely too small, did not have electricity, did not have plumbing, and things of that sort. And that was a way of life for about 2 or 3 years.
So you went from something to nothing.
Absolutely. But in reflection, you know, if I would reflect on, you know, the real contribution of what that transition mean, I would say that all things considered, it may have been the best thing in the world to happen to us.
Because
I had a mother who says, look, like your name of your show, everything is possible.
Right.
Okay? And we can do it. And she was the kind of lady that if it could be done within the and she only had a 4th grade education, but I often say, you know, she had more than a PhD degree in terms of her skills and her temperament and things of that sort.
When did you realize you were an academic? Because you got your PhD, you spent a career as a professor. That's a huge accomplishment, especially in the years in which you did it. At the time of this taping, how old are you?
I am 82 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
You look great. I love your spirit too.
Yeah.
But at the time that you got your PhD and in your academic career, that was trailblazing.
I loved school. And Mother insisted that we attempt to learn, you know, and appreciate it. I attended a high school eventually in Nashville, Tennessee. And you couldn't do it. I don't think you could do it in the school system now. But our report cards contained, for every course that we took, a percent score and a rank in class number. So if there were 30 students in that class and I was number 1, I'd be 1 out of 30. I'm the top guy in the class.
Right.
And that particular school was, the principal was a guy by the name of Derrick. He was a member of the family of the Derricks in Chattanooga, where they wrote spiritual gospel music and stuff like that. Insisted that we be scored like that. I was one of a tremendous number of people who were highly competitive. So at the end of each grading period, we weren't concerned about the percent. We were concerned about the rank.
Where are you going to rank?
Where are you going to rank? Where are you going to rank? And so my junior year in high school, we began to talk about who's going to be the valedictorian.
All right, let's pause right there because I got to hear how this story fleshes out. My guest is Bob Kirk. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Coming up,
Never forget that I am somebody. Never forget that you're really somebody and you can do whatever you want to do.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. My guest today is Bob Kirk, and we were taking the journey through your life. We got from Hamtramck down to Nashville.
In high school.
In high school. And you had the good fortune of being in a highly competitive environment.
Absolutely.
Where you not only had your grades and your percentage scores, but they ranked you.
Ranked you.
And they were trying to figure out who's going to be the valedictorian. Fast
forward. I ended up being the valedictorian of the high school class and captain of the football team. All this when I graduated, you know. Fast forwarding again, I had several opportunities to play football around the country, like Tennessee State, Southern, places like that. But I was convinced to attend Fisk University. Now this may sound almost impossible, but there were 16 freshmen in the freshman class at Fisk. Of the 16, 8 of us were either vals or sals of their high school classes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's that kind of influence that
So you go from a competitive environment to another environment where you're with best of class. And then that causes you to understand the power of educational culture. If you can put bright minds together, give them a context in which to compete to be better.
Compete.
Yeah.
Compete.
Where'd that drive come from, though? Because you're also a businessman and an entrepreneur.
I don't know. You know, hey, what? University professors make a lot of money. I'm being funny about this. You know? And I'll tell you how it really began. I remember we're entertaining some people in our backyard, and I always liked to do barbecues. You know, started very early, and one of the guests gave a challenge. Why don't you sell this stuff? The barbecue kind of thing. So we formed a partnership, and I began to sell, and one thing led to another.
Tell me all the businesses you have owned or owned.
Kirk's Market and Barbecue, which was a full-service, convenient market, and plus a barbecue operation. Then Kirk's Enterprises, which was like a distributorship of junk food.
Right.
The distributor. And then Kirk's Restaurant on Magnolia for about 11 years. It seems almost impossible. I was an associate real estate broker for Leon Saroff Agency many years ago, and did that on the side for about 12 years.
Tell me about your wife and family.
My wife of 53 years.
Wow.
It's been a fantastic ride. She was primarily an elementary school teacher for many years, graduate of Dillard University and what have you. We have 2 children, Derek and Tracy. They're doing quite well. Yeah, they're doing quite well. They both have master's degrees, and that's about it.
You have grandchildren?
Have 2 grandchildren. I have one grandson who just recently completed his first semester at Howard University, and have a granddaughter who is 8, who incidentally has done some ad work, believe it or not, for AT&T.
Oh, wow. So let me get down to the nitty-gritty with you as we get toward the close of this interview. As I've watched you through the years, I've always really admired you and the things that you've done. You have such a great spirit and attitude. The name of this show is Anything is Possible. Yeah. And I would love if you'd take just the last minute or 2 here and just coach me on what I would need to know to be happy and successful and to realize the full possibility of my life based on what you've learned through your experience.
Simple statement. Never forget that I am somebody. Never forget that you're really somebody and you can do whatever you want to do. Now, obviously, there are some things that seem almost impossible, but by and large, I adhere to the fact that I conclude I can do that.
Period.
Period.
Where'd you get that? Who put that seed
Mother.
in you? Hands down, that was it.
Yeah,
Mother.
When I graduated from high school, my mom gave me a gift that I have until this very day. During those days, you have to give the valedictory. After I gave the valedictory and we went home, she told me to go into the kitchen. There was a package for me. It is a noiseless Remington typewriter. They used to put them in cases, suitcases,
Yeah, I
kind of
remember that.
thing. And I asked her, where did she get the money? She said, don't worry about that, son. You're going to need that at Fisk.
Wow.
You're going to need that at Fisk. This will help you get through. Everything is possible. Because I'll do whatever I can. It may not be much, but I'll do what I can to support whatever it is you want to do. Later in life, she used to say I was a professional student. She thought I'd never get out of college. You know, I graduated from Fisk. I was drafted, went to Korea, came back, went to Indiana University. And I just laid out in Indiana and obtained 4 graduate degrees from Indiana University in Bloomington.
You made good on that typewriter.
I did.
Yeah.
I still have that sucker. And it works.
It's a possibility piece. Bob Kirk, thank you for a wonderful story of possibility. Thanks for being my friend, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me, Hal.
Yeah, you really are. a person
Thank
of
you for what you
possibility.
do for all of us.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
That's a strong handshake right there. We'll see you next time.